Hello, everyone. Welcome to Rock Talk. This is Russell, and with me today are Kirk Hammett or Lars Ulrich. No, it's James Hetfield, actually. No, wait. God, quarantine has not been kind to you guys at all.
I'm sitting in the wrong seat.
Yeah,
hey,
apparently.
Go get Kirk.
Go get Kirk for me. So with me, Chris Knight and Tone Dick Hort with the fancy last name from the mighty Southern California Damage Inc. How are you guys doing, and how are you guys holding up?
Doing well. I mean, adjusting to this new landscape here. A lot of it sucks, but all things considered, we've got our health and some time to sort of pick up on the household chores and spending time with the significant others and all those things that you don't have time to do when you're out gigging.
What he said.
and the ladies were in the back going, "Thank God." So you guys miss playing, right? Like it's got to be like just eating at you. That you guys, especially as a tribute band, you play a lot, and you play more than a lot of tribute bands do. Like, do you how much do you guys actually miss getting out there and playing in front of a crowd?
Well, I was just talking to Tone before we got on here, and we just kind of been rehearsing the set for our live stream, and I was telling him that was kind of the first time in a long time since this whole thing's gone down that I've actually really started kind of playing Metallica stuff. I found when I started playing it initially, it just really, really ate at me that it just made me want to play shows that much more, and so I kind of just screwed around on some acoustic guitar and playing some Doobie Brothers and some Pink Floyd and some other stuff, and just kind of shelled the Metallica for a little bit. But it felt kind of good to pick it back up this week, and I'm really looking forward to Saturday.
Yeah, it was definitely kind of cool. I mean, I agree with Chris. It was almost kind of depressing, listening to Metallica, because when we're going with all the shows, that's kind of your prep. You listen to the set list, you get your cues down, and it's it's like prepping for a fight Saturday night or Friday night when the show is. You're ready to go, and there's no light at the end of the tunnel. So I kind of backed away from it, but now this week it's like we got a show, we got a thing going on. So I'm like head deep into listening to all the songs again.
It kind of gets you back into that mode of a show prep and that week leading up to. And in you guys' case, I've seen you guys play multiple shows in a week, and it's that plus regular jobs. You guys have full-time jobs on top of everything, so it's one of those things that it's cool to see you guys back into it, because it was, especially the first couple of months, and we were talking about this before, it did feel kind of like a lull. And what we all do, and kind of what you guys do live music-wise and what I do event-wise, it was definitely just odd. And it was hard to get yourself kind of acclimated to what the new normal, even though hopefully this doesn't become the actual new normal, but what that new normal is. So what do you guys, I know that you mentioned this, but you guys are doing a pretty big live stream on Saturday, and I'm stoked as hell to see some live music played. Do you guys have any surprises in store for that? How's the planning going for that?
Well, I think surprises, unfortunately, might be on the technical side of things as far as the show is concerned. We really, really, really miss playing with each other and really miss playing, the stuff. I mean, it's great. I love playing Metallica at home, but what I really, really, and I think all of us miss, is being able to perform for people. And so I think from a show perspective, it's probably going to be pretty straightforward. I think, like I said, unfortunately, maybe, hopefully not, but maybe some of the surprises might come, from some of the technical challenges that we've kind of faced in getting this accomplished.
Yeah, that makes sense. What about you, Tone? Because I know you and Mr. Trujillo, Jason Trujillo. I know you two have kind of heavily been working on the technical stuff. Has it taught you? Have you learned a bunch of things? Setting this up.
Totally. We've got the cameras, so this isn't going to be just like set up a cell phone, play through amps, and it sounds like it sounds. So we're actually going to do like a direct feed from the mix board. So you're going to hear it more of like a studio sound. You know, you're going to hear everything hopefully nice and clean and great, sound like a CD. And then we've got 4 high def cameras with a switcher. So we'll have cameras on each of the band members and try and do as much as we can to kind of give you a show within a show the best we can. But it's a lot of technical challenges.
While still maintaining that, that safe distance. It's like.
Totally. So it is, there's a lot. This has been about 4 to 5 weeks of prep work between Kevin and I. A lot of getting together and sending text messages and testing things out and, changing cables and changing settings. And we really want this to be the best it can be. And hopefully it goes well. Fingers crossed.
Yep. Well, I feel like anybody who's ever seen your kit knows you don't half-ass anything. So we're the bells and whistles will all be there for sure. No doubt. So one thing that we were talking about earlier, and Tone, you and I talk about quite a bit, is the concept of a tribute band and kind of the weird perception of tribute bands overall, right? Like first of all, the difference between a tribute band and a cover band, which I love. But aside from that, just you guys as a tribute band, man, you guys play a lot. Like you're probably one of the biggest tribute bands that I've ever seen, and it's interesting to see a tribute band that tours. Like you guys have played from Southern California all the way out to Georgia, and your regulars out there. They want you guys out there all the time. So what do you think sets you guys apart from? And this obviously isn't derogatory towards other tributes, but what do you think sets you guys apart from those other tribute bands?
Well, honestly, I think there are a lot of tributes that do even better than we do as far as being able to travel and kind of play to larger audiences out there. I think that there's people like to maybe look down on it, maybe from a creative standpoint. But I mean, like I said before, we're just kind of in this for the performance. We enjoy performing this music for people that want to hear it, just like a symphony would perform, a piece that people want to come hear. I mean, maybe they didn't write that piece, that Bach piece, but that nobody's throwing rotten tomatoes at them over it. It's like, I think people just sometimes, that people think, or they don't take it seriously. I know we certainly do, not ourselves, but the music for sure. It's something that we all kind of enjoy doing. It's surreal a little bit, when we get to do something like travel to Georgia or Newfoundland. Was pretty awesome, and we even got to spend an extra day out there. And it's like, this is pretty cool. Our band got us here, and we get to do this because of the band. So it's kind of surreal sometimes. What separates that from other bands being able to do that? I don't know if there's an easy answer for that. I mean, we've spent the past 15 years, building brand, playing shows, packing up our gear for a handful of bucks, and kind of doing that in and out for quite some time. And I think it just kind of builds. The momentum builds on itself. I think when you surround yourself with some great people like Tone and Chris. Obviously, I'm surrounded by Kevin for life here.
Yeah.
It's like when you're surrounded by like-minded people, and you don't take yourself seriously. You take the music seriously. You enjoy doing this. You don't see this as necessarily a job per se. It's a passion, I think, for all 4 of us. And maybe that's the secret formula. I think we've been very fortunate to do a lot of the things that we've done over that time, and I also think that we've put in a lot of hard work and earned a lot of the stuff that we've done in that time too. But it all comes back to being grounded and just realizing, hey, we're not the guys. We're just 4 regular dudes that love Metallica to the point where we like playing it for other people, and we've built a lot of people out there that like hearing that.
I mean, I think a big thing is we're not trying to replace Metallica. We're trying to celebrate the music.
Yep.
We're not going into it going, we are Metallica, we are I think a lot of it is, people like building relationships. Karen, our manager, is huge because even through all this process of what's going on right now, she's still in constant contact with all the venues, keeping those relationships going, keeping the communication going, keeping us informed on what's going. And I think that over time, the 15 years, that relationship has grown with more and more venues, and you become more than just a venue and band. You become more of personal friendship and personal relationships. And I think that transcends just, hey, you're a band, we're going to hire you, come play.
Yeah, and that's actually one of the things in our first episode we had John from Warbringer, and this also goes into a question that was just posted by Mark Crosby. Hey, Mark. He asked, can we get a Pittsburgh show? And one of the things that John said that I thought that'd be pretty amazing. One of the things that John said that I thought was great was he went on kind of a story about how, like, a lot of people ask the bands, can you play here and can you play here? And John's like, well, you start your ritual and, maybe we'll appear there. Unfortunately, that's not how it works. And we've done this here, you guys have seen with the work I do. A lot of it comes down to talking to venues and being like, will you guys book these guys? Or will you, how can I book you guys? Like, if I get you guys a venue, will you come out? It's, it's the passion, but it also has to be worth the time, right? So you guys are able to, you guys don't do this for the money, but you also can't afford to fly places and play, unless the money's there that actually covers that, right? So it's kind of a balance, honestly, with stuff like that.
A little bit. Yeah, I mean, it definitely, there are expenses that we incur too.
Yep.
Travel expenses, food expenses, gear and stuff like that. So, I mean, we're not looking to make a living off of this by any means. Unless, I liked ramen back in the day, but I kind of like to expand my menu a little bit. But it does. I mean, it has to make sense too. And in some cases, it can boil down to, work schedules. If it, happens to be a weekday thing, maybe we got to get out there on a Friday, so now you're taking time off work too. I love this to be my job if the money was there, but, the money kind of covers what expenses we incur typically. And, we're able to, go get some T-shirts or merch or something for people, or maybe putting out CDs or finding something fun to do with it. It's not it's certainly not something that we're like waiting at the end of the stage after the show, like, hey, come on, work it over.
Where's our other cut? Come on.
So it does. I mean, it does have to make sense. The passion certainly outweighs, what you're making for it. But it does have to make sense with these places. And it does, kind of going back to that point that we were talking about before, I think one of the things that I failed to mention too was, and maybe the time kind of covered it, you can have a great band when and just getting started out, but you also kind of have to build that network, and that takes maybe a little bit of time. You have to be nice with people. You can't have attitudes or egos or anything like that out there. So,
Yeah, well, and one of the things I feel that helps a lot too is I know that endorsements, things like that come through, and like Tone, you're a pretty endorsed guy yourself. Like, you've gotten, I couldn't name. Can you name off all your endorsements?
I'm very lucky, but then again, a lot of these, and I hate to use the word endorsement. I endorse the company; they don't endorse me.
Right.
These are companies like Yamaha and Sabian and Aquarian, Electro Voice, that EV, love guys that we love the product and we love to promote the product, but it's also the family behind the scenes. Greg at Yamaha, we played in bands together. He was a drummer in a band, I was a drummer in a band, and we would play same shows.
Yeah.
And that's a 25-year relationship. So just like with the band getting gigs, it's the same type of thing. You build that personal relationship, and it's, we as a band are so thankful for all the companies that have decided to help us out.
That's
Yeah, and our guitars sound for the last 5, 6+ years has been driven by Studio Devil, so it's atomic amplifiers. So it's really important, I think, when you make those again, to those relationships with people out there, and kind of show them that you're, kind of getting out there and maybe putting yourselves in front of people, and again making that connection with people out there. I think that they kind of view that as a plus.
Well, and networking in this industry overall, I think networking is the most important thing you can possibly do. You can be the most talented person on the planet, but if people don't like you, they're probably not going to bring you around. And
right.
It's about being humble, which you guys do. You guys are one of the most humble groups I've ever met, which is shocking to me because I was one of the people that was kind of like, I don't like tributes. They don't sound right. It's not the same. I'm the person who can't watch a TV show if the voices don't match. So, like, if you're watching Clone Wars and I hear Obi-Wan Kenobi, I'm like, that's not Ewan McGregor. I can't watch this. So
authenticity.
Yeah. So, and I'm that same person when it comes to tribute bands, and that's not, it's not negative about their ability or anything else. It's just really, really hard for me personally to,
Sure.
Hear someone else doing a song and be like, wow, that's being done right. Usually it's like, no, they messed up there. But with you guys, going kind of back to what we were talking about in terms of why you guys have excelled so much, I think there's a big aspect of that, and you guys bring the total package when you play. You don't just kind of show up and play Metallica songs, right? Like, you guys put a lot of time and effort into recreating, refining, but making it your own. Which is a hard thing to balance and a hard thing to manage.
Yeah, at least from my standpoint, when I'm up there, I've kind of always said this. When I'm playing up there, I want to make somebody out in the audience feel like I would want to feel if I were at a Metallica show. Without again, actually thinking the word the gods, So it's kind of channeling that a little bit and wanting to make that connection with that person in that way out there. I think is kind of what it boils down to.
And in Tone's case, he's got probably 3 of Lars's kits put together on the back of the stage with like.
I started doing social distancing well before the virus.
You've got a drum shield going on.
Literally.
There's no way you're catching anything behind those drums.
I got no problem.
Do you use every piece? I don't think I've ever asked you that. Do you use every drum?
Well,
to play Metallica or?
The drum set is designed for kind of all the eras of what Lars does. I mean, early days he was using rototoms, the big 4 toms. He had 2 hi-hats. And then into the Black Album and Justice, he had really big 4 toms. So for me, I try to capture the sound of the individual albums, and unfortunately, his sound changed over the years. So my drum set just gets bigger. Plus the fact I have really good companies, and I like a bunch of shiny shit.
So wait, does that mean somewhere in there you have a ping drum? So if you ever play anything for Saint Anger, we're gonna get that. Ping.
Wait, let me turn it off.
Oh, God.
There you go.
Yeah, I don't think, have I heard you? Ping, ping. Oh, by the way, Chris Brightwell says, no, it's because of him that you guys are so great.
Oh,
it's
we did forget to mention that.
Yeah, Brightwell's okay. He's a decent guitar player. He does a halfway decent job with those solos.
We'll keep him.
I mean, you sure? Brightwell's pretty fantastic. I mean, that's the other thing is individual talent. Something that we talked about you being humble, so you'll probably hate this. But when you talk about individual talent, one of the things with any band is that it's finding 4 guys or 5 guys or however many people you want in the band and finding each of those individuals with that individual talent that can mesh together. It's right. It's kind of those two pieces. Like somebody can be a great guitar player on their own, but unless they find something that fits them stylistically or fits them in, and people that fit them attitude-wise, it's not going to go well. And you guys, how did you guys meet? That's something that I don't think I've ever heard. And, how did you meet? And then how did you guys know that it would just work?
Well, when I was 4, my mom brought Kevin home. And I immediately dropped him out of the crib. This is Sparta!
Oh, wait, hold on. On that note, someone by the name of Jessica Knight says not to mention their parents raised them to be humble and talented men. So felt like that was an important interjection.
Yeah, that'd be my niece. Yeah, I mean, so Kevin and I kind of were doing cover bands for a little bit, just the hard rock stuff, Metallica, Megadeth, Godsmack, System of a Down, just pretty much any of the hard stuff that we liked to play or hear. And then it was we had our original drummer Boyd. So it was a 3-piece for quite some time, and we weren't really doing Metallica. We actually got asked to play a show in Fullerton at the Next Door Bar and Grill. I think that's it. Yeah, Next Door Bar and Grill. I don't want to mix it up with Slide Bar. But the Next Door Bar and Grill, they had us come out to do an all Metallica, and just a 3-piece. So I kind of slopped through some Kirk solos, and with a capital slop, and played most of the rhythm parts, and we kind of did our thing. And I think eventually we kind of wanted to make that turn, but one of the biggest additions was Kevin going to Guitar Center and meeting our original guitar player, Dave. Dave Cole, who's his current roommate right now. Hey, Dave. And so he went to go get something from Dave. I think it was a cabinet or some piece of gear. And Dave asked him, he's like, so what do you do? And he's like, well, I'm in a band. We do, mostly Megadeth and Metallica and stuff like that. And he's like, well, who's your lead guitar player? And he's like, well, we really don't have one. It's like, I play lead guitar. Now. We had him out, and I think we played through Four Horsemen for the first song, and the rest is kind of history from there. He played with the band for quite some time, and then after a little bit, we got a little kind of busy. He needed to step away for a little bit. Again, he's my brother's current roommate, so we've always had good ties with everybody. And then that's when Chris stepped in. Chris had been still is an awesome guitar player in the music scene, and he was doing an Ozzy tribute at the time. And Dave, Kevin, and I would always go to the shows and be the three of us in the front row, like watching the solos and just having a great time. And when Dave decided that he wanted to step away, we asked Chris, and Chris was like, "Yeah, let's do that." And so, the rest was kind of history from there. We played some awesome shows together, and then it came time that our drummer at the time, Boyd, had he has 3 kids, and this second job, hobby, passion, whatever you want to call it, even though you only play one day out of the weekend, it kind of kills the whole weekend for that usually. So he was finding kind of missing too many kid activities, I think, on the weekend, and wanting to see his kids grow up and being able to kind of check everything off of his list that he wanted to do for the most part. And so with that, we had kind of been friends with Tone for a little bit. He too was also in the music scene in an Ozzy tribute. I know that's not deja vu. And great drummer. When Boyd, we all had a meeting, and he said he was going to step away. We gave Tone a call and asked him if he wanted to be the drummer, and the rest was history again. Here we are, fast forward, like 10 years now? You've been with the 8 years. 8? So yeah, it's been quite a long road. Everybody, we still keep in touch with Boyd, and they were just at our last swap meet show. He played the fair. We're constantly having band reunions, so it's kind of been one big happy family, and we're pretty fortunate with that. Really, I mean, there's I think you mentioned that's one of the key components of being able to do this is keeping the disagreements to a minimum, I guess, or at least cordial or human. And that's not easy to do sometimes, regardless of the talent, or the network or connections you made. Sometimes it just boils down to not getting along with the other guys. and we've been fortunate to not have to deal with that mostly.
Yeah. Well, I mean, a lot of bands. It's pretty rare that you find a band that every single member that's been a part of that band is still kind of part of the band in a way, like in spirit at the very least. You get people that are still family, which is great. But when it's to that point where you can still go hang out and they'll come to the shows, that is a pretty rare thing.
Dave's at all our family events. He's part of our family.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so cool.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah, I just remembered. I think I met Dave when I stayed with Kevin last time I was down in LA. I stayed there and met him, and I think Kevin mentioned that. Wow, God, it's weird. In this quarantine, the time is moving at such an odd rate. Sometimes it's super fast, sometimes it's super slow.
It really is. It is kind of weird that way.
You sit here like you'll have a week, and you're like, oh my God, it's been a week. It's already Saturday again, and then you'll have a week where it's like, I don't know what day it is. Oh,
right.
It's Tuesday.
Is it June yet?
So,
it's October.
Right? So I do want to mention, if anybody has questions for the guys, we've got some starting to come in now, which is awesome. Anybody has questions, pop them in Twitch, pop them in YouTube, pop them in Facebook. Yell and screen them. The lovely Suzanne is screening questions for us. So she's going to make sure that we get them fed. There's a story tone that you told me once. We were talking about kind of the endorser families. And there's a story you told me that I didn't realize as somebody who doesn't, who's not in a band, who doesn't play with a band, how those families function and how those work. And while for you it's kind of normal and it's kind of a standard thing, for me as a fan, it's something that's surprising or interesting. So it involves Lady Gaga. Do you remember the story?
Yeah.
Can you?
Yeah. Basically, I'm with Yamaha Drums and really good friends with Greg, and I'm living in Orange County and got a phone call from Greg, and he's like, "Hey, do you still have this drum?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Hey, so can I send you one? Because I have a big artist that needs it." Absolutely. We're all Yamaha family. Sure, no problem. We happen to not have any gigs at the time for like 2 weeks. No worries. He's like, "Hey, can you take it over to meet this guy?" And sure, no problem. And drive over there, and it's actually Chris Johnson who is playing with Lady Gaga. and of course we meet up, and I'm like, "Hey, I heard you need this drum," and he's like, "Yeah, nicest guy in the world." I mean, that's one of the great things is everybody that you meet behind the scenes, they're such nice guys. I mean, there's not one guy that I've met through the Yamaha family or the Sabian family that is just, has their huge ego. They're all down to earth, love to talk drums, love to talk music. They're just a local hang. And he was the nicest guy. In fact, he's taken 2 of my drums. He took a snare drum, which is actually Greg's snare drum I borrowed, and I guess they painted it or did something, and he played it at the Super Bowl.
Yep.
And I hit him up every once in a while going,
can slowly try to escape.
So are you gonna get that Super Bowl drum back? I feel
One
like
drum at a time.
You should have that Super Bowl drum.
I asked for it, and the answer was, hell no, it wasn't yours to begin with. Let it go. So love you, Greg. Love you, Jim. Love you, Daryl. Yeah.
Well, and it was amusing. We were, after you loaned that first drum, my wife is a massive Gaga fan, and I'm a pretty big Gaga fan myself, quite frankly. And we went and saw her when she came to the Bay Area, and I went, "Hey, guess what?" She's like, "What?" I was like, "He's playing tone snare." And she was like, "What?" And I was like, "Yeah," because he picked that up from you in LA, and they came straight to San Francisco with it. And I was like,
and that was...
We know the guy who gave him that drum.
Yeah, and that was the thing is that the tour was starting, and he needed the drum right away, and I happened to be the one guy. They had ordered it, but it hadn't shown up in time. So, that's what you do. I mean, I had a drum of mine break, and it was like, "Hey, come to the shop, pick out a drum. Let's do this." So, it's those type of relationships that just make it amazing. And that's the reason why I got Yamaha on the arm.
Did you? I didn't know that. You actually have it.
No.
Oh, awesome.
and then Sabian up top. So, oh yeah.
I mean, if there's
About
if
to get awkward, folks. He's taking clothes off.
Oh, we're not. We haven't gotten to that level of drinking yet. I think we're good for at least another 20 minutes. So Sergio Gomez, I'm assuming this is related to you.
Sergio.
Says,
Hey,
tell that
Sergio.
hippie to shave.
What's that?
Tell that hippie to shave.
Not me, him.
Oh, well, maybe both. I don't know. And Bobby Gonzalez on Facebook wants to know, for both of you, who is your favorite tribute band?
Oh.
Yeah, that's a big question. That's
Oh, God. I mean, I like so many different tribute bands, and there are so many great ones out there. I don't know if I have a favorite. I can just think maybe like my top, just the top 10 I can think of, or top 5. I mean, the Iron Maidens, Queen Nation, which is Pink.
Yep.
There's just so many.
Atomic Punks.
Will kick me in the shin if I don't say.
That's what I'm thinking. Like, this question could be bad because, like, they could sit here. They know so many that it's just gonna be one of those things where you don't want to leave that one out that comes back later, and they're like, "Dude, really?"
I'm reading the Academy envelope, or it's like I forgot to prep my speech.
No, I totally agree. I mean, the Iron Maidens are the reason why I did tribute bands. The Atomic Punks, Greg and the guys. I mean, Queen Nation, the guys. Which one's Pink? I mean, these are the bands that they set the standard for all the other tribute bands because they just do it the right way, and they're the nicest people, the most easygoing. Yeah, I mean. And it's cool because when we travel, we get exposed to other tribute bands, and it's great to hear some of these bands that we're kind of spoiled in the LA area, but there's some great bands around here.
I mean, or in your case,
I think we got pretty lucky with the TV show opportunity that we had because not only did it give us some exposure, which was cool, but it also gave us some exposure to a lot of these other different bands outside of our genre that we normally wouldn't play with, like in the same, billing typically, which is not entirely true because we did share a stage with Kenny Metcalf. Love Kenny. Kenny's awesome.
And Britain's finest.
Yep. And, and so, I mean, you never know. We've also done shows with Which One's Pink, too. So it's just, I think that show was a good opportunity to introduce us to a lot of bands, again, that we didn't know before, we typically wouldn't bump into, and just making the relationships with some of the guys out there. They're just such cool guys, so down to earth. I mean, there are some bands out there where you might run into somebody who takes themselves a little too seriously, but nobody in these bands do. We have a good circle of people out there in this tribute scene that, again, I think really take the music seriously and not themselves.
Yeah,
I think a lot of it too is you build those relationships. I mean, I was just talking to Linda yesterday. I mean, anytime we see Queen Nation at airports all the time. So it's not just being on stage. We genuinely have friendships with these bands, and I think the Access TV thing really opened ourselves up because we were kind of the only metal band, but we got to hang with the guys from Which One's Pink and Queen Nation and the Atomic Punks and that kind of stuff. Vitology.
And those are down in LA. I'm sure there's no shortage of tribute bands in general. Like that's got to be one of the hubs of tribute music because you've got so many places down there that have house bands that are just in there 3 or 4 nights a week versus even in the Bay Area that's not really a common thing here. LA is one of those final bastions of the house band. You guys have gotten to play like some amazing venues. Like you brought up the Access television show that you did, World's Greatest Tribute Bands, and I remember being there. And for me as a fan, I remember when we were getting everything set up, I walked up onto the stage and I was just like, I am standing on stage at the Whiskey A Go-Go. Wow. Like it's a feeling. Like how does it feel playing on that stage, or even more so hanging out backstage at the Whiskey, which the things that have happened in those rooms.
Surreal. It's pretty surreal. You know, it's kind of cool. I myself didn't really grow up as part of the Hollywood scene, so my introduction to those venues was through the band. I never really went and saw anybody back in the day at those venues. So I mean, it was just surreal. You know, couldn't believe we were there.
Yeah, that was. I mean, it was definitely. There was a great energy there too. That was. I think the coolest thing of all of it was. I'm pretty sure it was sold out. I believe it was, and it was just so packed in there, and it had this old school vibe. And you know, hearing Metallica songs in that room, given the history of that room, that was something that was incredible. And for you playing Metallica songs in that room,
yeah,
like that's.
We're pretty lucky. We're pretty fortunate to be able to do stuff like that, man.
Yeah.
It's really been quite a ride, and like I said, it's super surreal.
So I'm gonna go into another question here. Alka Dark on Twitch has some set list questions, and they are So
that's Chris.
So the first thing is, who writes the set list?
There may be spoilers ahead.
Well, I mean, that's up to you. So the question, it's a multi-parter. Who writes them? What thinking goes into each? So that's Chris, just for the people that listen later. What thinking do you put into each set list, kind of on an individual basis? Because I can say from experience, you guys don't typically have a cookie cutter set list. You have those songs that are kind of required, but otherwise you don't have a cookie cutter. It differs vastly when you guys play for the 3 freaking hours that you play. So what kind of thinking goes into that?
Yeah, so I've kind of done the set list, I think, from the singer's standpoint. There's quite a few things that sort of go into doing it. And I know not to make it sound overly complicated or anything, but I mean, some of the things that I factor in when I'm putting into the set is I keep all of our old set lists. So if it's a place that we're playing that we played before, the first thing I'll typically do is pull the last set list for that place up. And aside from maybe some of the staples, Master of Puppets, one, or maybe a couple of other songs, we'll try and change it up. Maybe we've been playing a couple of deep cuts lately, and we haven't played one there yet. And we might throw that into the set list. If the other thing that we balance into that set list writing is keeping ourselves entertained. It's you don't want to keep playing the same songs over and over and over, the repetitive stuff. I mean, even the biggest Metallica fan, would chuck the CD if they had to listen to it for, the 2500th time or whatever. It's like, eventually
you don't like hearing Inner Sandman live for the 50th time.
Right. So I mean, you factor that into it too. You also kind of want to kind of set the energy a little bit too. I mean, I usually like to come out with at least maybe 2, sometimes 3 songs with that's kind of a punch in the face a little bit, right off the bat. I want to kind of bring the energy in the show, kind of get that, everybody's blood pumping, so to speak. And then, kind of just take off the set list from there. We like to maybe close something at the end of the night. We try and keep it traditional a little bit, like Metallica's been doing, and usually Seek It and Destroy is kind of the, at least the faux ending, so to speak, and we'll usually maybe go into one more after that. But we try and keep it mixed up pretty well. I think there's like 5 or 6 songs that we pretty much play every set. Just off the top of my head, probably Seek and Destroy, Master of Puppets, 1.
Creeping.
I'm sure there's, Creeping's another one. But we've also played shows without that too, So I mean, we like to just kind of keep it fresh for not only the people that are seeing us for the first time, but also the band and the people that might be seeing us for, God bless you guys, the 30th time or whatever,
I'm working on it.
Well, and I think another big thing that kind of is cool is Chris really has a good idea of how the room is reacting to certain songs, and we actually have, because we all are in ears, we have a microphone on stage so that he's able to come back and throw an audible. If he's feeling the crowd is more into the old stuff, he'll throw in an old song to kind of keep the momentum going. So he's really good at feeling out the crowd and kind of seeing what they like. And then we as a band, we know close to 70 songs. So he can pull out a song, as long as it's not some deep cut we haven't played in a year, we can pull out a song. And for the most part, it's like, okay, cool. And we keep that momentum going. So that's a credit to Chris and all the time that he invests in really formulating and getting it going, and kudos to him.
Well,
I mean, these shows are amazing.
We do run some audibles. I'll usually keep typically it's 5 songs, and that's just because before we were in-ears and had a little talk back mic that only we could hear, usually it was done with hand signals. Sometimes drums hand signals. You're like, how many of them am I holding up or whatever? So, usually we had 5 songs to kind of range the spectrum. So that way, if it's like, all right, these guys need something a little bit more mellow, we could pull something like that out. Usually like this, or, now we can just go and talk back in the mic and say, hey, you, we're playing this song.
Well, you need to hide those set lists anyway. Otherwise you end up with me on the side going, play this one. One of
my favorite parts about going to a Metallica show is just that excitement of like, oh, they're playing this song.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's like I kind of want to, try and keep it secret, keep it under wraps, so you kind of get that same sort of, hopefully I can impart that feeling on you too.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you did for me. That was, what was that venue? Tone, you're pretty good at remembering these. The venue that I went to, the last show I was at.
Sacramento?
No, it wasn't Sacramento. It was down there. I'm not going to be able to remember it, and I feel terrible.
Oh, Decades.
Thank you.
Decades.
Yes,
with Greg.
the Decade shows. And I was sitting over there looking at the set list, and I saw one of the audibles was Bread Fan. And I was like, so Bread Fan was the first song that I ever saw Metallica play live. So I'd been a fan for years prior, finally got to a show, the first song I saw. And I'm sitting here, and that was right by Kevin. I started going, Kevin. And he's like, what? And I'm like, Bread Fan. And I did that for probably 15 minutes because I also was not sober. And Kevin, finally, I saw him walk over to you and go, and I was like, and you were like, okay.
I like that song a lot too, so I probably didn't need a very big nudge.
But that's the kind of thing that you guys can bring, is that feeling and that vibe. Anytime, I've only heard that song one other time live, and that was when Metallica played the Fox Theater in Oakland, which was a unique show to begin with.
Right.
And they opened with it. So,
wow.
It was the same. It was kind of a full circle thing. I had gone from being the kid way out in the stands to, being a couple rows back seeing this and just going, holy crap. So, on that note, I want to get back into the questions because we're starting to get a lot of them now, which is awesome. So, what is your favorite? I have a guess on this one, but what is your favorite city to play live? My guess is Anaheim because you guys play the House of Blues a lot.
Yeah.
I do love the House of Blues. I mean, it's such a great venue. We're able to typically get a lot of people in there with, they give us a ton of giveaway tickets. So you're not, we've got a lot of blue collar fans out there. It's not easy to go out there and not only pay admission, but also, $10-15 for a beer or a couple of beers. It gets to be an expensive night for somebody who's, we do our best to put on a good show, but we're not the bands. So you don't want to go dropping $150 that night. So it's kind of a cool thing where you get a full on production, professional production. Those guys, that crew there, top notch, always awesome, always on point. The light show, the sound, and of course you got the crowd there. So it's kind of the perfect storm. But every show has its own little quirk or awesome part about it. It's like every other little place is different. I can't think of any 2 places that we play that feel the same to me. Every place has a little bit different vibe, maybe a cool, sound, maybe the way you're able to connect with the crowd. Maybe it's just a little ritual that we have, like the swap meet. We got our 1, 2, 3 beer thing that we've got going on there. So it's just every place is really different. I don't know if I could nail down one. I do enjoy them all differently, but Anaheim and OC, that's our hometown, so that's kind of cool. But it's also awesome to be able to get into other places out there and be able to introduce the band to people who've never seen us before.
Yeah, I mean, I would have to say I would agree. The swap meet, House of Blues. To me, my number one. I love Vamped in Vegas.
That's an awesome place too. Awesome place.
And it's smaller than House of Blues, but everybody from Danny and Corey to Chris and Brittany, the entire staff. I mean, we've been playing there almost 8 years. It's a family situation. I mean, and to be able to kind of extend ourselves, play some deeper cuts. We've done a couple Metallica kind of get-togethers. They've really opened up their arms to us, and it just really feels, when I get on that stage, it just feels comfortable. And there's no stress, and I really feel like we can really just put our best foot forward. That's my number one.
I think one of the cool byproducts of being able to play all these different places too, it's kind of like what you were talking about, Tone, is you feel like family with the Cookers and the staff there. And the staff at a lot of these places that we play, again, are not only professional and on point, but are super cool people. And you get to develop these friendships and relationships with the staff too of these places that you're playing regularly. So a cool aspect of it also.
And another one would be 37 Main. I love 37 Main in Atlanta.
The light crew out there.
I love those guys. Love them to death. Love Kenny out there. The guys in El Paso. I mean, you could just go on and on and on. Even to the guys Brad and the guys up in Newfoundland.
Had a great time out there. It's the coldest summer I've ever played.
Holy crap!
How I've ever played. It was an indoor hall. Were you guys freezing inside too, or was it just everything?
No, outdoors.
It was an outdoor set.
July.
Oh.
Yeah.
So did you look like the boys in Antarctica doing that? Did you have a little bubble?
Except we weren't dressed like them. We just had whatever jackets we had or shirts we could throw on. We were layering. We didn't really sweat the whole show.
I was gonna say, did you not do your research before this one? Were you not prepared? At least hopefully you had the stuff you needed.
I don't think I carried the 2 in the Celsius conversion.
No. It was brutal.
It was still a great show though, because those guys were so awesome. They loved it. We had a great time with them, hanging out after the show, and it was just they're a whole country away.
They had to be excited.
It was so awesome.
They had to be excited as hell to have you guys too, because it's not, you hear about big bands like massive international touring bands hitting Newfoundland, but not, bands like you guys, that are just bringing the music and the passion out. That doesn't happen very often. So that had to be really cool for the fans out there to get something like that.
It was awesome.
Yeah, we ironically, kind of tying into some of the other tributes, Queen Nation happened to be playing Newfoundland in a different city that same weekend. We happened to bump into them out there, so it's kind of a small world, so to speak, just that little corner of the country there. We both happened to be in at the same time, so it's kind of cool.
That's a hell of an irony for sure.
It really was.
So let me go on here. Rodney Ford.
Hey, Rodney.
Wants to know, of course my stuff is acting weird right now, what song that you want to play live that you haven't yet. So Ronnie Rising, obviously.
We've got our requests in. God. Tone, you go ahead with this one. Let me think about it for a second.
Yeah, we've gotten to the point, because we've learned the first 4 albums, it got to the point where each band member has kind of a guilty pleasure, and Chris has kind of done his with Helpless, and we did what was it, No Leaf Clover for Brightwell. For me, it keeps changing, because there's still a great 10 or 12 songs that we don't do. I would like to maybe pull out the album version of Lords of Summer, or maybe Broken, Beaten, Scarred.
Ooh.
I mean, I would even like to bring back something that we've haven't done in a while, like Into the Line or That Was Just Your Life. I like the heavy, progressive, in-your-face stuff.
Yeah, I mean, having played being able to play the first 4 albums, that covers a lot of real estate when it comes to Metallica songs. We do quite a few others off of, some of the other albums too, but we don't do a lot off of Load and Reload. If I had to pick songs that probably start digging into some of those albums, maybe like Bleeding Me, that song, always liked hearing that one live when they did that. Hero of the Day is kind of cool. I wouldn't be opposed to playing anything, really. I mean, I pretty much love it all. No Lou Reed stuff.
Lou Reed stuff. I want you screaming that you're a table. That's all I want. That's. I think doing just starting one of those songs and seeing either who doesn't recognize it or who does and goes, "Oh, what the hell?" would be kind of funny, and then stopping and going into something else.
What's funny is that another album that we really haven't gotten into a lot has been Saint Anger. And mostly, it wasn't as popular necessarily as some of the other albums out there, and it didn't. The tuning kind of creates a little bit of a logistic issue when it comes to, especially travel shows. But we might be able to figure something out and dive into a couple of those songs too. We've actually been getting people coming up to us. Here and there at shows and asking, "Hey, are you guys doing anything off of Saint Anger?" And it's I think maybe enough time has passed for some people or whatever they want.
You know what we could do? Just thinking about this, we could do leading up to Saturday. Is we could potentially, I could talk to you guys more, and over on Rock Immortal we could do a poll, and so you guys could pick 10 songs, something along those lines, and then have people vote. And see, maybe grab something, you guys could grab something off that, put it in the set list.
Cool.
For Saturday. That might be a cool idea, I think. And so we'll let you guys pick it. That way you can avoid me putting in the song that I would put in, that you already know. I've given Tone at least 5 different song requests, and every single time he's like, no, not that, because all of them are a pain in the ass on drums, all of them. And he's like, you're not, even when I performed with you guys, I'm like, I want to do this one. He's like, no, fuck you.
No. No, and on the Saint Anger thing, if we do something like Saint Anger, I would like to do maybe the live version that they're doing now, where they've kind of rearranged some parts and added a solo. And I mean, Chris is really good at that as well. Even with some of the songs that are kind of the staple songs, like a Sandman or a Master of Puppets, he'll find videos from the Justice tour or the Load tour, and he's like, hey, they changed the arrangement on this. Let's keep this song fresh and change it up, and we'll change it up.
Ooh, what about, you can always do Fuel for Fire. No, this one's easy. You already do Fuel. You could do Fuel for Fire though, with the original lyrics. The demo version? Yeah, that they played in on Cunning Stunts.
The demos were like, man, we've done everything else. What do we do?
Wow.
Oh, that would be hilarious. Have you guys thought about doing, this is a question for me because I'd been thinking about this for a while. Have you guys ever thought about doing kind of your own, speaking of arrangements, your own kind of medley? Because I feel like that could work for something like Saint Anger. Metallica hasn't done that.
We have in the past. We've done Justice medley, kind of similar to what Metallica did back in the day. We also did a kind of a Kill Ride medley that they were doing during the Load tour. We had for a while actually a medley of songs that we're doing. I wouldn't be opposed to it, and actually, if we're talking to Saint Anger, we already got the down-tuned guitars and instruments out. From an economy standpoint, that might not be a bad idea.
Knock out 4 songs and you're good.
You don't have to tune them all down again. Just go blast through 4 or 5 songs in one little 8-minute clip or something.
Yeah, that would be really, really cool. That'd be amazing.
The Saint Anger medley.
Saint Anger medley. Just call it the anger medley.
The anger. Everybody's angry when it starts.
I mean, the start. I feel like the start would have to be "Dirty Window," just so Tone could do that little ba 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 ba. See what the reaction of the crowd is. And you could use your snare, Tone. You could bring your snare out. Ping. So, Bobby Gonzalez wants to know your favorite songs to play live.
Typically anything new, just because, again, it's sort of fresh, challenging, and kind of fun. When it comes to sort of the stuff that we do a lot, one that I've always held dear is Fade to Black, a super fun song to play live. It's from the new album. I've been really digging Now That We're Dead. A fun song to play too, Spit Out the Bone. Jump in the Fire is fun to play. Usually kind of stuff that we don't do all of the shows, I would say.
What about you, Tom?
Definitely Spit Out the Bone. Love Spit Out the Bone. I like Blackens. I love how heavy Sad But True or Harvester of Sorrow are. Disposable Heroes. I love Disposable Heroes.
Me too. Have you guys thought about, with Now That We're Dead, doing the drum circle?
I am not letting Kevin anywhere near my drums.
Well, Tone,
open up the stage like they did.
Well, no, I feel like with Tone's kit, it's big enough to where you guys could just pick a drum.
Just pick a drum.
Just go there, kind of. Or you could replicate the combination of that and the Am I Evil drum bit that they did at the Big Four, where you had all those guys out there playing, and half of them were only doing half the fucking beats. So,
Greg, I need more snare drums.
There you go, and now there's reason. So, it's about 8 o'clock. I think it's just about time to wrap up. Do you gentlemen have any closing remarks or anything that you want to lead into in terms of the show Saturday?
Just super excited, man. Don't forget to tune in this Saturday at 6 for your highest quality viewing. Remember, there's some other options there. Facebook, if that's all you got, that's cool too. But we are super, super excited to get back to playing again. And who knows? I mean, this is the landscape for the near future. Maybe we'll start making this somewhat of a regular thing until we can get back into actually having that connection again, in person.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely want to thank Jeremy and his place for letting us borrow, kind of quarantine ourselves in there. Thank you, Russell, for having us on. Thank you all on Facebook and YouTube and Twitch for hanging out with us tonight and coming on Saturday, and it'll be an adventure. We definitely have some things down the pipeline if this continues. And maybe some surprises. You never know. So we're trying to stay busy while still trying to be safe.
Awesome. I think that's kind of, that's what everybody's up to at this point. So thank you guys so much for being here. Guys, we're going to wrap this up. Thank you for tuning in. I really, really appreciate it. You have a wonderful evening, everyone, and we will all talk to you very soon. Do not miss the Saturday night live stream with Damage Inc. And have a wonderful night. Everybody be safe.